Hello. Today we're going to be discussing a hot topic. Will the housing market crash in 2023? This is a question we keep hearing over and over and over. And today we're going to be going through some stats and data points on why we think the market actually won't be crashing. Hi, I'm Vittoria Logli with App Properties Christie's International.
And I'm Evan Fitzgerald. And our number one first reason why we don't expect it to crash in 2023, the housing market, is because it is not 2008. And the first is, remember back in 2008, what really precipitated the market crash? So much of it was because of all of those risky loans that were going on out there, no money down, and people were being lent money even if they couldn't afford it. Things have changed. And if you have at any point in the last 14 years applied for a mortgage, you know that the whole process is different, much to the chagrin
Much more rigorous.
much to the chagrin of everybody that has had to go through it. But that is certainly the case. It is a different process than it was back then. And for the most part, those risky loans are not factored into the equation in the same way that they were in 2008. So that's part number one. But part number two is, in 2008, there was 75% more inventory out there than there is today. And Vittoria, as you're going to explain, that is a huge factor in this as well.
Yes, absolutely. So there were many more homes for sale during that time. Today, we have, like Evan just said, 75% fewer homes. So we only have about 25% of the inventory on the market for sale. So much less is available right now to buy. Talking about the whole distressed property thing, we only have about 2% of our current inventory, our current homes for sale, are distressed. Now, compared to back in the main recession, there were over 6 million people that lost their homes during the recession, which is an enormous number. We have such a much lower number these days because people also have way more equity in their homes than they've ever had before. They're paying their mortgages on time and they have way more equity than they've ever had before. So it's just so different than 2008. I know people are trying to compare back when the recession was caused by the housing market. If we are slipping into a recession here coming up in 2023, it's not going to be caused by the housing market.
No, it certainly is a different. And I think that should be reason for everybody to sort of take a deep breath and feel good about those changes, the differences, because it is a very different climate than it was. And Vittoria, you're going to lead us into our next point here, because I think this is a huge factor in this as well.
And unemployment is still super low. I know that the numbers are increasing, and in the fall they went up, from 3.2 to 3.5% unemployment, and we're hearing about all these tech companies laying off employees, which, yes, of course, is troubling, but it's not to anywhere near the magnitude that it was during 2008 and previous recessions, when there was between 5% unemployment and 9.5% unemployment, between 5 and almost 10% unemployment. We're seeing 3.7% unemployment. So when people don't have jobs, they can't buy homes, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the case here at all.
Yeah, no, that really distills it really well. I mean, there's the basic principle here, right? If you feel like your job is at risk, or if you've lost your job, you obviously can't be in the housing market for a lot of factors. I mean, the base factor is you're not going to be able to get financing. And even just the psychological factor, if you're concerned about the status of your job, you're obviously not going to feel comfortable getting out there and going and buying a home. So unemployment is as low as it is, should reassure people who are thinking about jumping into the housing market that is a stabilizing factor, which is obviously a positive thing for sure. And then there's the other thing, is that we talk about all the high interest rates, right? So that shifts buying power, but it doesn't necessarily shift someone's ability to buy at all. So let me sort of explain what I mean by that. It means that, with higher interest rates, your buying power may change, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you no longer want to or need to buy a home. So that's a very different thing than in 2008, when people were either, first of all, unfortunately losing their homes. I mean, there was a decade of people trying to climb out of the crash of 2008. We've seen the housing market as hot as it's been over the last few years, and it's sort of easy to forget what things were like, in that 10 years post 2008. It really was a difficult situation for so many people. this is not the same thing. This is sort of a whole different animal, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it.
Right, absolutely. So again, as Evan said, buying power might be a little bit lower. So instead of buying that $500,000 home, now you're buying a $450,000 home because of interest rates, but you're still able to purchase and get a mortgage and you still have a job. Very, very different. And unemployment is super low.
And our final factor here is that we are actually, even though sometimes it might not feel like it, we are kind of getting back to normal. And Vittoria in just a second is going to explain why we put kind of on there. But this is sort of what we're supposed to see this time of year. We're getting into the cold weather. Seasonal market is a normal thing. I know that we've sort of gotten away from that over the last couple of years. Things have been a little bit different, but it is not unusual to see the housing market slow as you get into November, December. And then typically you would see things start to pick up end of February into March, right? That's kind of normal. For a lot of people, it's kind of reassuring that things are not crazy, that things are maybe moving back into a more seasonal market, which is not a bad thing.
Oh, it's not a bad thing. We've been so frenzied for the last 18 months, 2 years, selling, regardless of the time of year, that people have forgotten that normally around the winter time frame, it does tend to slow down, and that's completely normal. However, here's the one caveat, the kind of, is we still don't have any inventory. It's still super, super low. So compared to 2018, we have 72% less inventory, less homes for sale. Compared to 2019, 75%, with only 261 homes for sale in the Chicagoland, Cook County, northern suburbs. That encompasses 8 suburbs. 261 homes for sale. That is absolutely nothing. So that's where the kind of comes in, because in housing, a balanced market is about 6 months of inventory, right? Now we have maybe 37 to 40 days of inventory, if that. So basic law of economics, supply and demand, and they balance out right around that 6-month mark here in the housing world. But inventory is still super low. So that's why we're saying kind of back to normal. It is a little bit more seasonally slow, but we still have no inventory.
And by the way, if you want more a real deep dive into that, we'll put that video. I can never find the end of my box here. We'll put that video up here somewhere right on the screen. You'll be able to.
Where we dive into the stats.
Yeah, we did a really deep dive into those numbers. So it really gives you sort of flesh out that idea that kind of help you understand what we mean when we talk about this historically low inventory that we're dealing with right now. What's the bottom line, Vittoria, here, as we sort of sum up everything that we're saying here? We don't have a crystal ball. We are not making promises or guarantees. Our educated opinion based on the data,
based on the data that we have right now.
We don't see the bottom falling out of this market here in the Chicagoland area.
Absolutely. I know people are scared to buy, they're scared to sell, but you have to do what's right for you and your family, and don't wait. If you do feel it's time for you to buy and you're renting, well, when you're renting, you're paying 100% rent, right? Doesn't matter if the interest rates are 6-7%, you're paying 100% rent. Or if you need to sell for a job change or whatnot, it is when it's the right time for your family. But in our educated guesses and from what we've learned and researched, and even the economists for NAR, Lawrence Yun, they're not expecting 2023 to be a crash. There might be a stabilization, and housing, the prices of homes aren't going to continue to rise exponentially like they have, but honestly, it's going to go back to a pre-pandemic seasonal stable market, which will be actually very nice, I think.
The word stable sounds very
stable.
Yeah.
Stable.
And by the way, we want to know what you think about this as well. So make sure that you, down in the comments, let us know what you think. Do you agree with what we're saying? Or do you have other concerns?
Do you think we're crazy?
Yeah, right. I mean, the answer is yes, but do you think we're crazy about this particular topic? So leave those comments down there. And also, if there's a part of this that maybe we didn't touch on, or something that you've been thinking about when you think of the market and your concerns about it that we didn't hit on, make sure you ask down below. We're happy to answer your questions for you.
And maybe it is the content for a future video. So thank you so much.
We're always looking for, and we very much appreciate. So thank you so much for watching this one. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Take care.